Today's video has kindly been sponsored by Fuel for Fans, which is an F1 website that stocks officially licensed F1 merchandise. So click the link in the description to head over to their website and get a nice little 20% discount as well. Yes guys, we are back. Welcome to round number 12 of my F1 2020 My Team career with the Honda team driving as Jenson Button. And it's been a while. It has been nearly a week since the last video, so I do apologise for that. But yeah, sort of work commitments mean that I haven't been able to upload. But hopefully we can go daily episodes till the end of the season. And if you guys have been enjoying this series, do make sure to smash a like down below. It really helps me out. As I haven't been uploading daily, YouTube will just hates it. It hates it when you don't upload daily. So this video will probably flop. But yeah, if you could leave a like, it would massively help me. In terms of this series, I've almost forgotten what the last race was, but it was Austria, and it was a very good race, so check it out if you haven't already in the top right corner. But it was our best result of the season so far. We managed a P6, so hopefully we can carry on along the same vein of form today. But getting straight into things, we have got a contract to renegotiate with our teammate Nobuharu Matsushita. His market value has gone up quite considerably since the start of the season, even though he scored no points. But nonetheless, he's doing alright for us, so we're going to renegotiate with him. And we're going to go for the medium risk option for an offer because yeah, I think that should be okay. He's done nothing special in the first half of the season, so I think that should be fine. And sure enough, he accepts our offer and we've got him on board for the remainder of the season. Even after we've forked out $2.5 million, we've still got a little bit of cash remaining, 2.43 million in fact. So we're going to help Matsushita even further and upgrade the personnel area, which is to do with the drivers. So we are going to upgrade the simulator, which will cost 2 million, and it will improve his pace stat and hopefully mean that he can get out of Q1 for the first time this season. In terms of the activities, we've gone for a similar combination as to what we usually do. Again, helping out Matsushita with the race simulations before upgrading our aerodynamics equipment, which will give us some resource points and improve department morale for the aero guys. And yeah, keep the sponsors happy as well by attending a conference. And fast forwarding through time, our powertrain upgrades come through for the turbo part. But unfortunately, we've had a failure for the chassis, which isn't ideal. Because that would have been nice around the high-speed corners of Silverstone. So that means that we have to go and spend some of our valuable resource points on developing it. But fortunately, it will be with us for next round in Hungary. But that only leaves us now with around 600 resource points. So off to the track we go then for this race weekend, one that I'm very much looking forward to at Silverstone. And unfortunately, we've got more changeable conditions. It's been the case for a few races this season, and this time it's going to be raining in qualifying and dry during the race, which is going to be interesting for our setup. In terms of what's going on with the development of our car and where we stand, we are still the third slowest team. So due to that upgrade failing, we've sort of fallen a little bit further behind the midfield. So yeah, starting to plateau a little bit. With Alfa Romeo, Alfa Tauri and the like bringing upgrades at this point of the season. But as you can see, we'll have 2 upgrades on the car, I believe, for next time at the Hungarian Grand Prix. So we've got a major aero upgrade, which will be very vital around that track, and also a chassis weight reduction. Our rivalry with Esteban Ocon is going pretty well. We've had a good few races, scoring points in, I think, about the last 4 races. So yeah, we're leading him, even though the Renault is a better car. But yeah, hopefully we can stretch further ahead of him today. Practice didn't go too badly. We managed to gain a decent chunk of resource points, which topped up what we had to spend on the failed part. So that means that we have enough for a major upgrade, and we're going to spend it in the powertrain department and just go all out for the fastest engine on the grid. We've got Belgium and Italy coming up, which are big power tracks. So to have the best engine on the grid should be really good for those 2 races. So out onto the track we go then for the first competitive lap of the weekend in Q1. And oh boy is it raining. It is raining hard. It is full wet conditions. And even though it's meant to clear up as qualifying goes on, we're just going to have to grit and bear this part of qualifying because it is very, very wet. And we come out onto the track right at the start and you can see drifting almost out of the pit lane. It is an absolute lake here in Northamptonshire. And as we come now to finish our first lap of Q1, we're just missing every apex. It wasn't the prettiest of laps. I think Silverstone, this track has been reprofiled for this game, and I was really struggling to get up to speed with it, especially in wet conditions. So our first lap was way off the pace, and as we came across for another lap, our tyres were just completely overheating. So the rain had sort of eased off, and that front left tyre is on fire, meaning that it's definitely time to come in and fit a set of intermediates. We managed to do that just in time for the end of the session, so you can see that we're currently in last place, which is no surprise seeing as that first lap was horrific. But fortunately we're on the right tyres at the right time, so it'll be interesting to see what the rest of the grid do on this lap. As we come through the first corner, already gaining about 0.4 of a second, half a second compared to our previous best. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in the traction zones as well. So 1.2 seconds up through the first sector and a second up on Matsushita's best time, which is of course a good benchmark for ourselves, him being our teammates. And we're now over 2 seconds quicker as we come to the back end of the circuit. But now coming through Maggots and Beckett's towards the end of the second sector, you can see compared to Matsushita 2 seconds up. Although of course all of those drivers are on the track and wanting to make an improvement on their previous best time, as now we come through Stowe and towards Vale and Club. We've got about 20 seconds left on the clock, so we will be able to put in another lap. So it'll be interesting to see whether there's any more track evolution. But now we come through the final corner to set a 1:38.2, which puts us up in 3rd position for the meantime. But I expect that to tumble when cars come across. And unfortunately, on our next lap, we bin it on the exit of Beckett's. And if you look at the tower on the left, we are tumbling down. We did our lap at the wrong time, I think. So we probably should have just gone for a push lap at the very end. And unfortunately, we just bit off more than we can chew, and have ended up in 21st place behind our teammates, and not a great qualifying. Of course, out-qualified by Esteban Ocon, so we lose out in the rivalry. It's currently 16-14 now, so he closes up on us. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to just replace our engine components. They are so worn at the moment. You can see we're quite heavy on the wear on certain components, especially the internal combustion engine. But yeah, we just thought, you know what, we'll take the grid penalty. We'll start 1 position back compared to where we were meant to be in P22. But we should have a nice fresh engine for this race at Silverstone. Of course, quite a high-speed circuit, so I think having these fresh components will be good for us, and yeah, saves us taking a penalty when we're hopefully further up the grid further on in the season.
We return once again then to the home of British motorsport and the birthplace of the Formula One World Championship. It's race day here at Silverstone, and it's time for the British Grand Prix. With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Vettel, Max Verstappen and Albon, Perez, Stroll, Ricciardo and Carlos Sainz, Ocon, Kvyat, Lando Norris and Grosjean, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, George Russell and Kevin Magnussen, Gasly, Matsushita, Buchan, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, and Nicholas Latifi. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Okay, I know it's your home Grand Prix, but treat it like any other race. Don't take unnecessary risks.
Thanks, Jeff. Much appreciated. So, yeah, the sun is out here in the British countryside. And yeah, the race strategy pretty straightforward. Soft to mediums. Although we have decided to fit the mediums at the start, so we have gone for a slight different strategy to what it suggests, but it should be an easy one-stopper. And now we go on to the formation lap, and it looks as if everybody else has gone for the soft compound of tyres, so we may struggle to keep up early on in the race. But taking a quick look at the drivers' standings, you can see Charles Leclerc leading by 3 points at the top from Lewis Hamilton, with ourselves just there at the bottom in P13. And in terms of the constructors, the last few races have been really good, and we're now up to P8 in the standings, but of course a long way off Ferrari and Mercedes at the top there. But as we form our grid position at the back of the grid here at Silverstone, we go to 5 red lights here, and away we go. We're very slow off the line on these medium compound tyres. Everybody else ahead on the softs, and it looks as if they're going about 4 wide into turn 1, which is brilliant for us. We just sweep down the inside of a couple of them and up into P20. We're now going to be on the inside here as we come into the village section, but it's very, very slow up ahead, and we're going to be forced to the outside here, and we have to slow down to almost a snail's pace, and we go really, really wide there just to avoid our teammate Matsushita, and that puts us side by side with Latifi on the exit of the loop through Aintree. And we're down into P21, although we have, of course, made up 1 position from the start, as Gasly, Magnussen and Matsushita go 3 abreast now into Brooklands and into Luffield for the first time, putting on a great show for the fans. And Matsushita comes out on top into P18. He goes ahead of Magnussen and Gasly. And we're now on the run down to Copse across the old start-finish line for the first time. And Matsushita ahead of Magnussen and Gasly, which is pretty good for him. He's showing that he's got the pace over us at the moment this weekend. So yeah, hopefully we can get past the AlphaTauri and the Haas car between myself and Matsushita at this stage. And we've got a good run on Magnussen now as we run up the hill towards Stowe. Can we go down the inside of the Haas car? Yes, we can. This fresh engine is looking pretty good at this stage of the race, and we're up into P20. It's not much, but it is something at least. And now just Pierre Gasly between ourselves and our teammates as we finish the first lap of the Grand Prix. And we're struggling really to keep up with Gasly. Now, I actually discovered after the race that I was running a wet setup, which sort of explains why we're so slow on the exit of some corners. So yeah, just bear that one in mind for the race. But meanwhile, up ahead, we've got Gasly going for a route move on Matsushita and into Stowe. He gets the move done. No DRS active at this stage, but the AlphaTauri doesn't need it. Meanwhile, Matsushita tries to fight him back into Vale, but Gasly looks as if he's got the move done for P18. And their little jostle has meant that we close up to our teammate now. Of course, we're on the medium compound of tyre, which means that we're expected to be slower in this first stage of the race. So hopefully we can reap our benefits later on in the Grand Prix. But already we look to be quite detached from the back end of the points, which we've become accustomed to being in the last few races. But on lap 3 now, we activate DRS for the first time. And we just don't have the pace in a straight line to get past Matsushita. Of course, he has got an identical car to us, but even so, it looks as if we were losing out in a straight line with this setup. And on the exit here of Luffield and through Woodcut, we looked as if we're just not gaining at all on the cars ahead. Moving on now, a couple of laps on to lap 4. There's a real ding-dong going on now between the Ferrari, Red Bulls and also Lance Stroll, I believe for P4 in this race. And Stroll goes for a move down the inside into turn 1, and that was never going to stick. And Lance Stroll, who was on for some very good points for Racing Point in this race, has just spoilt it all. And as he comes now back onto the track, he is in stone dead last. So we overtake him. That's a free position. Thank you very much, Lance. And we are up to P18. Moving further on into lap 5, you can see there's quite a battle forming up ahead, and Matsushita now looks as if he's going to go for a move on George Russell in the middle of this train. That Honda engine that we've got fitted is doing the business and overtakes the Mercedes fitted into the Williams car. Very, very nice stuff, although Russell looks to come back at him in the second part of this battle. And as we now come through Club Corner, Russell goes a little bit wide through there. We stick our nose down the inside, thank you very much, and we follow our teammate through up into P18. And as I said before, it's not much, but we're still progressing through the field, which is nice to see at this stage of the Grand Prix. So yeah, the goal is to just follow Matsushita through, really. He's proven to be the lead Honda driver this weekend. So fair play to him for that. But yeah, proving his worth after we renewed his contract, you know. That money's got to go somewhere, I guess. But as we skip on a few laps, yeah, we just find it really, really difficult to keep up with Matsushita. And he gets ahead of Romain Grosjean, a battle which, to be honest, we were just nowhere near. And George Russell behind, as we go wide through Luffield, takes advantage and now goes down the inside of us before we get to Copse. And George Russell in the Williams has overtaken us. My God, we were battling with Red Bulls last race, and now we're battling with Williamses. This is just not going particularly well, and Russell gets past us. But as we come through Maggots and Beckett, we are going to get the DRS on him as we go a little bit wide there through Chapel. But nonetheless, we definitely have the pace in a straight line over that Williams car, even with the wet setup. And we cruise past him back into P18. But we've lost yet more ground to Grosjean and Matsushita up ahead, probably a second to them on that lap. And as we skip forward quite a few laps now on to lap 9, it looks as if Magnussen and Stroll have both got ahead of Russell. And Magnussen blatantly overtakes us in a yellow flag zone. What is all that about? As Carlos Sainz is out of the Grand Prix, so that meant we gained a place. Then we lost on to Magnussen in a yellow flag zone. I swear to God, if I'd have done that, then I would have got a penalty. But Magnussen gets off scot-free. And that was very bizarre and intriguing. So yeah, we're down a position, a little bit annoying. And now we fast forward through to the pit phase. So we've got a few drivers coming into the pits now. One of them is Lewis Hamilton. So he comes out just behind Valtteri Bottas. Now these two are currently first and second in the race. There's quite a few drivers yet to come into the pit lane, but both of the Mercedes are out ahead of the Ferraris, Red Bulls and Racing Points, etc. And now this is going to be a brilliant little battle that I'm going to show you for the race lead. So it's Bottas in the net race lead, and it looks as if there's no team orders going on at Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton with a win here could, for the first time this season I believe, take the lead of the Drivers' Championship. So on the run now down to Copse on lap 11 of the Grand Prix, closing in on Valtteri Bottas and coming through towards Maggots and Beckett's now. He makes a move to the inside. Bottas is on the hard compound of tyre and Hamilton's on the medium, and Lewis Hamilton through Maggots and Beckett's makes a ballsy move up into the net race lead here at his home Grand Prix in Silverstone. So yeah, I just thought that was a nice little battle to show you guys, seeing as we're languishing at the back of the field. But yeah, meanwhile, back on board with ourselves, back to reality. We've obviously been overtaken by Magnussen. We're up to P15 after a couple of cars have pitted and slotted in behind us. But it's not looking good, to be honest, for points this afternoon. And Lance Stroll now behind us after his mistake, which saw him spin out at turn 1. Even after all of that, has re-overtaken us. You know, we were battling him in the last Grand Prix. And then here in Silverstone, we just have no pace whatsoever. You know, we've fallen right behind our teammate, Matsushita. And it's just been a terrible, terrible afternoon for ourselves. George Russell back on our tail now. We can't have him overtake us again, but it looks as if we are going to resist for the meantime. Don't forget, of course, we are on the medium compound of tyres still. So it's sort of expected to feel a little bit more pain in this first stint. But yeah, hopefully those soft tyres can spurt us up the field in the second stint. And if we have a safety car, who knows what could happen. So yeah, stay tuned. There's a lot that could still happen in this race, as we have quite a few drivers come into the pits at the end of lap 11. That promotes us into P7 for the meantime, but I think that's going to be about as high as we get for quite a while in this race. So we're still behind Kevin Magnussen. He is 1.3 seconds up the road, so we don't get DRS off him. And Charles Leclerc, who's made his one and only pit stop this afternoon, is behind us at the moment, but not for long, and he gets us with the DRS. I'm not even going to put up a fight there, it's just not worth it. As we see a couple more cars into the pit lane, one of them being Kevin Magnussen. So it'll be interesting to see where he comes out, or sorry, where we come out after we've made our stop, after he's made his, whether we can make any gains on him with those soft tyres later on in the Grand Prix. Meanwhile, we lose yet more positions. These medium compound tyres are feeling disgusting at this stage. You can see the understeer we're getting, obviously partially due to the fact of the setup that we're running, but even so, we fall behind Albon and Perez, and now we've got Max Verstappen right behind us, Perez pulling away with the DRS, and we get a whole heap of understeer into Stowe Corner and come into the pits a lap earlier than scheduled on lap 14 of this Grand Prix. We get it slowed down a little too well, I think it has to be said. Although the speed limit in this pit lane is 37 miles an hour, which you only tend to get at street circuits. So yeah, you just need to make sure that you really do slow down in time for this pit lane. But I tell you what, it's a very, very long pit loss here at Silverstone. Hopefully our crew aren't going to contribute any more to that, although it was a little bit of a leisurely pit stop. It's not too bad. It's 2.9 seconds as Kevin Magnussen comes past a long way ahead of us, as does George Russell, and we are going to have to do a lot of work in this second stint as we come out in P20 with a fresh set of soft compound tyres. So at this point I'm thinking just close in to Russell as quickly as possible. But to be honest, we just could not do it at all. We're now on lap 18, so a few laps into the stint, and he's still 2.8 seconds up the road. We couldn't even make any inroads on a Williams car that was on slower tyres than us. And on lap 19, we come towards Brooklands, and if you look in the bottom right, our throttle got stuck open. So I don't know what happened with my pedals, but the throttle was just stuck open even when I was braking. So I had to manually sort of take it off the throttle, and that seemed to fix the issue. But a really, really bizarre thing going on with my pedals. And to be honest, after looking back through the footage, what was happening in some braking zones is I was overlaying the brake and the throttle. So yeah, I've had a look into it. I think I've fixed the issue now, but I don't know, maybe that explains some of the pace that we've lost during this race. I don't want to be making excuses. I was just, you know, really baffled that obviously we had a brilliant race last time in Austria, and I'm running the same difficulty this time round, and we have to come through to retire the car on lap 20 of the Grand Prix. We're going to save the engine, seeing as we've had so many durability issues throughout the course of this season, and that is it for us. So Lewis Hamilton managed to take victory, holding on after overtaking Valtteri Bottas after the pit phase. So yeah, very good for Lewis.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team, and they certainly deserve it.
Yep, fair play to Mercedes. They put in a very, very good performance at Lewis's home Grand Prix, and a 1-2 for Mercedes, so they're really, really closing in on Ferrari. It's been a good couple of races for them, or sorry, a good run of races really, as Ferrari obviously took the early advantage, but it's now looking like Mercedes are on the comeback. Charles Leclerc, the former championship leader, only managed P4, with Albon outdoing his teammate for the first time in a while. So Alex finishing P5, Max in P7, with Ricardo Kvyat and our rival Ocon taking points this afternoon. Matsushita didn't do too badly. He managed to finish P16 after starting in 20th. So yeah, he completely outshone us all weekend with his fastest lap over a second quicker than ours, which is, yeah, a little bit embarrassing. We could only make it into the 1:30s. Just, yeah, a bizarre weekend for ourselves. But yeah, in the driver's standings, Sergio Perez moves ahead of Lando Norris, and vitally, Lewis Hamilton moves into the lead of the driver's standings, 11 points now ahead of Charles Leclerc after a big swing in this race. And Racing Point move ahead of McLaren. Racing Point have been brilliant in the last few races. Meanwhile, ourselves, the Honda team, stay in P8. A little bit of a race to forget for ourselves, I think it has to be said. But yeah, going on to the rivalry, it was a bad afternoon, if I'm being honest. We didn't even finish the race, so we didn't even get a point for that. So it's 18-17 in favour of Ocon now, meaning we've got a lot of work to do in the next couple of races if we're to win that rivalry. But yeah, that is it for this British Grand Prix. It wasn't the most successful, but hopefully you guys did enjoy it. Like I say, I thought I'd put that little battle for the lead in to make everyone forget what a terrible race it was for ourselves. But yeah, as I said at the start of the video, this one's been kindly sponsored by Fuel for Fans, so check out their website. I'll leave a link in the description to my discount, which will get you 20% off anything that you want. And I'll see you tomorrow, guys, for the Hungarian Grand Prix. I'll catch you then. Do take care. Bye-bye.